So today we have Chris Cobb, owner of Chosen Agency. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We want to do this podcast a bit different than we have those in the past.
Okay.
I really want to base this one. We're going to find out who you are, the company you own. But I want this to really be educational for the people who have a lot of questions about finance, money, life insurance, but feel silly asking. Questions that most people should know when they graduate high school, but we're not taught those sort of life skills and how to invest, what an interest rate is. Do we need life insurance? What's the importance and advantages and disadvantages of having a 401k? So I have a list of like 9,000 questions. It's going to be hard to get this done in an hour for you because I want to pick your brain. Because from what I've seen on TikTok and Instagram, you are a walking encyclopedia. And what makes you stand apart than the rest is how easy and how you break it down in really simplistic terms for people to understand. Mm-hmm. Let's start with what is Chosen Agency. We'll talk about who you are today and then how you got there, and then we'll spill out all the questions.
Gotcha. So Chosen Agency is an insurance brokerage, and we specialize in life insurance, annuities, health insurance, rollovers, and stuff like that. And so I guess I'll just dive into how I got into it. So as a kid, my parents would ask me, hey, Chris, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I just said, I want to be rich. It wasn't, I want to be a firefighter, policeman, athlete. It's just whatever path is going to take me to riches. And so I remember being in college, my dad asked me what was I going to major in? And I was like, I guess business, because that would be the next thing.
Did you have any jobs in high school and college at all?
Well, I did work at Sears, and I was actually like part of the sales team.
So for the 5-year-olds that don't know what Montgomery Ward's and Sears is, I don't know today. That's like a Best Buy.
Yeah, like a Best Buy department store. So I would be, I started with just one appliances, like actually just put them together. So I was just looking for a part-time job to make $10 an hour.
Yeah.
But I love talking to people, and they noticed that. So they said, hey, we got you in the warehouse. You probably should be out here on the floor. So my first sales experience was just being a kid, not knowing anything, but just willing to talk to everybody about anything.
A common theme with a lot of successful people is sales. It's a really good skill to have. And no matter what you end up doing in life, whether you run a business or work for somebody, sales is still the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether you're in a relationship or not.
Yeah. It's communication. It's communication. Yeah.
And you didn't even reach out to take a sales job. They just saw something and you put you on the sales floor. Like, this guy needs to be out here talking to people.
I need to talk. And it was funny now, though. I've studied sales. I'm in it. And I still don't see myself as a natural salesperson. It's led by education. So part of what I do, my sales pitch is, hey, these are the advantages. These are the disadvantages. What makes sense for you?
But I think that's what makes you a good salesperson, though, because I do that with my team, too. I'm like, don't be harassing people. Because I own a makeup line. That's the building that we're in upstairs. It's cosmetics and hair care. And anytime that you're pushy and you're too salesy, people catch on to that. And they're like, I don't want any of that. Nobody wants to be pushed. People buy off of education. We see that time and time again with everyone that we're interviewing. People want to learn from you. And if you're a wealth of knowledge and you give good customer service, people are like, tell me more, tell me more. And naturally the sales will follow.
Yeah. And for me, just my demeanor. So my wife, she has a marketing background. So when it comes to sales, she has a pretty face and she's a shark, though. You can't tell it. Like me being a guy, sometimes I feel intimidating. So it's just like, no, let's talk about what it is that you're looking for. Let me educate you. Let me know what your needs are, and we can see if we can make something happen for you. And most people like the approach because for me personally, I can do that all day. I can talk about education and what makes sense for you, but people feel unarmed a little bit. It's not a guy jumping down my throat. He's giving me information, and I'm the type of guy, hey, if we can't do the deal today, let's catch back up next month, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, whatever.
Did you always have a craving to learn and knowledge in school? Were you really studious? So you've always been like that?
So it's crazy. It's a tale of two stories. So my parents both are teachers. My whole family's in education. So out of 3 or 4 generations on my mom's side, let's say there's 40 cousins, aunts, uncles. It's probably 35 or 36 that teach.
Wow.
There's literally 2 or 3 of us that did not go in education. So sometimes I don't know if I'm in studious or I just had to be.
Yeah. You're forced to be around it all the time.
Yeah, my dad was the engineer. My mom was the math teacher. So like the numbers, I had to get it. Because if we made B's, she would say stuff like, you're going to be a sanitation worker, And she would say it jokingly, but she's like, hey, you're not putting forth effort and I know what you can do. So that part was definitely instilled in me. But even outside of that, I was the guy who was always reading biographies, looking at quotes, reading about Abe Lincoln, just trying to learn stuff because I'm just very curious. That is a strength of mine. I love researching and learning. And so that was good. I got into University of Georgia. I did get a business degree from there, but that's why I said to tell the 2 stories because as college came, I don't know, my parents weren't there anymore. So the studious stuff kind of went out the window. It took me 5.5 years to get a 4-year degree.
Hey, it took me 7. I'm not judging. Same thing. I would get on my classes enough to get insurance, and then I drop them all.
Yeah, that was me. And the thing about it is, I think college, I did appreciate it because it was so many unique experiences, but I also could see that there were so many things that didn't relate to me.
Yeah.
So the classes that I enjoyed, finance, accounting, that type of stuff, I excelled in it. The other stuff like art, literature, is like, that I don't see.
Forced to take, like speech.
You're forced to take. I took a physics class.
I didn't
Yeah.
make it either. I lasted just 4 or 5 months maybe.
I think you got to the speech class, and he's like, "Yeah, we're done here."
Well, it just got so boring. I'm like, I could be making money
Boring.
somewhere. And I took business, the same thing. And so my business classes that had something to do with business, I'm like, this is great.
Loved it.
But the rest of it, I'm like, this is so boring. I could be,
Dissecting frogs.
yeah, I was like, I could be making money. I feel like I'm wasting my time. And it was the opposite when I was younger, because I actually really loved school. But after about 8th grade, it was just like, I'm uninterested at all, just because it just felt like the same stuff every day.
Yeah, and I hate to say this because people always poo-poo the education system, and I'm not trying to do that, but
I am. No, it's
Sean went to the second worst rated school in Texas.
Yeah.
He went to Hitchcock High School.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know what that is. If you're from around here, you know what that is. But it was bad. They watched Menace to Society every day in school. He was not challenged whatsoever. So he just kind of gave
how
up.
high school was.
It was so bad. Like the teachers didn't give a shit if you took a test or giving grades or whatever. I don't even know how.
Yeah, so you really didn't have
got
to go to
there.
school.
Yeah,
They
but the
didn't
thing
really
about it, when I was
influence you
in
back then.
college, I was interning. I was asking real estate professionals, like, what do you do? Can I come shadow you? I would go to insurance agents. Can I shadow you? So
This was in college or high
in
school?
college.
Okay.
And so it was like, yeah, that studious, that guy who loves to learn, is still there. It's just you
Yeah.
being forced to learn stuff that doesn't matter to you.
Yeah,
My freshman year, I took a physics class.
Yeah. So uninterested, you're just like, let's move on. Let's just
I
get this
checked
done.
I
Yeah.
checked.
I think education's important. I just think the traditional education system is unimportant.
Well, it's all the requirements of classes.
That's
that
what I'm
you take
saying.
They don't have anything to do with your degree. It makes
Yeah.
sense. You know what I mean?
And
That's stuff you can
there's-
learn in high school.
I mean, you're supposed to have academic counselors, and I guess they're supposed to be mentors, but they're just doing a job. Like, you need 12 hours, 15 hours,
Yes.
sign up.
I didn't
They never asked me, like, hey, what do you think you may want to do? Okay, let's take these classes. Let's go intern here.
So I do think it's so important to do exactly what you did. Whatever you think you want to do, so do it for free. Go offer your time. I don't know if you can even do that doing employment labor laws these days, but go get a job in that industry to make sure you don't waste 4 years of your life.
Correct.
And it's something completely opposite.
Yeah.
So, as part of a business degree, because we all had business degrees, you take your finance classes, you take quant, all those terrible math classes that we have to take. You get through, and what was your first job outside of college?
Very first job was Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I
Yes.
wrecked one of those before.
Yeah. So I was there only 6 months. It was a good experience because it's a hustle and bustle. It's retail.
So why Enterprise? Why did you choose that? Did you need something quick?
Okay.
Okay, so the only one hiring. So you wanted something in finance, but you're just waiting for something to come up, and you
Correct.
took whatever job
Yeah.
you could get.
Because I
at the time.
graduated college with like a 2.7 or so. Again, I wasn't a good student. Like the guy
Yeah.
you see today, that wasn't me in college. And I goofed around, but they were the only ones that would hire me. They have a good track record of putting people in positions once they leave. Because that program is like a management trainee
Yeah.
and it's retail. And honestly, they don't teach you a lot of skills, but the hours are like 7 to 6, 7 to 7. And so you're forward facing, it's customer service, you're working on holidays. And so a lot of times people hire from the company because they know if you survive the program, you know how to work. You're willing to do stuff.
Well, I know a ton of people that work in that company, and they have been there forever. Nobody leaves.
So as you work your way up, you can make some money. But for me, I was there for like 7, 8 months. It was a good experience. I got more sales skills there, just talking to people. And one of the things I learned a lot is that a lot of people who rent for business travel, they're there all the time. So when I was there, I was networking like crazy. And I met a ton of guys from different industries. So I always got business cards. I always got interviews.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's how I got my next job at Travelers as an underwriter. Because the guy came in and rented a car and he was like, hey, I like your personality. We're always hiring.
That's what Sean does. If he likes somebody's personality,
yeah.
they do
That
a good
was
job.
it.
He's like, "You want a job?"
I actually had an underwriting job when I was 16.
I
We had a
thought so.
co-op program, and I worked for American National
That's
Insurance
when you worked
Company.
for.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
yeah,
Galveston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go to school till 12, and I'm like, man, it'd probably be easy to go. At least I get out of school half the day. I can go somewhere and work. I mean, I was making nothing, but it's really boring.
Yeah.
As a 16-year-old, it was
yeah.
really boring.
Oh, yeah. American National is actually one of the companies we write with, too. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I think they sold, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. They still kept the name, but
Yeah.
somebody else bought them out. But that's how I got with Travelers. It was a underwriting gig. And so I kind of felt like corporate, like I made it. You know, I was making like $60,000 at 23, 24 and no wife, no kids. You know, that's pretty good money. And desk job where I'm working 8 to 4, got 20, 30 vacation days. So like my parents and everybody was super happy because coming to education, you make 40, 45,000.
Is it still like that? Is it still the same? I feel like educators just never really get the raises.
They never
as
really
the
do.
years go by. It kind of always seems the same.
The only way you do it is more education. You got to get another degree.
So frustrating.
So for a 23, 24-year-old to be making 60, 65,000, they thought I was killing it. For me, at the time, it was plenty of money. But 2 years into it, I got bored. Because I'm in a cubicle all day looking at spreadsheets, and it's like, man, this is not my personality.
Yeah, can you do that forever?
No. So I went from like enterprise being high touch all the time where I got burned out to this. And I thought I wanted the corporate life because I was like, oh, that's too much. And I did it 2 years, and I was like, no, this is not going to be
You needed
it.
a hybrid, something in the middle. You could still be in the forward facing, but not just all day.
Absolutely.
Because that'll run you dry.
Yeah. And the way I got to life insurance, my boss supervisor at the time, he said, Chris, I can tell you're bored. And he said, I recommend you find a hobby or volunteer within the company, like find something that's going to keep you engaged and excited, because I can tell that you just come to do your job and that's it. And so that's when I got the life insurance part-time, just to keep me excited, keep me vibrant. It was just to, get out, talk to people and do what I like doing, get hands-on. And I think if he knew that it was eventually going to make me leave, I'm not sure he would have gave me the same advice.
So to do life insurance, do you have to have a special kind of license to do that? It's a course you have to take. Did I read something like that?
Yeah, so you have to get licensed with your state. A couple courses that you have to take. Most people it takes a month to 2 months. It's not very cumbersome. It's a couple $100. And so that was my mindset going into it too. Because somebody asked me the other day, like, how do you know? What's your passion? It's like, bro, I got an insurance because I thought I might like it. It took me a couple weeks to take the test. It took me $300-$400 to get a license. Like, I didn't know that 6 years later I'd be running a 7-8 figure brokerage. I did it because I needed something to do. Just try it. And so that was pretty much it. It was very simple.
So when I saw that you buy and sell life insurance, what does that mean? I know there's a lot more technical stuff that people understand about paying $25 towards a policy, a $75,000 policy, which I'm required to buy to have this building. I know there's more to it. People can earn interest off of it, or there's something you can borrow against it. I know there's more to it. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So there's
Sell me a life insurance policy.
Cash value.
Yeah, there's special policies that you can design that are primarily made just for building cash. It's one of those things that's not going to make you rich. I always tell people that because they get on TikTok again. Somebody buys $1 million policy. Now they think they have $1 million of leverage. No. But it's a way that you can put money into a vehicle that's tax-free. So that is why people like it, because it grows tax-free, 5-6%, guaranteed in some cases. And while you're borrowing the money out of it, you can reinvest it in multiple places, but the money still grows because you take loans against it.
Is it only tax-free on the income that it makes, the percentage that it makes, or is it tax-free when you're putting it in? Can you deduct it from your income tax?
So if you as a business buy insurance, you possibly could.
But not as an individual?
Correct.
Okay.
So like what happens is a lot of partnerships, let's say me and you started a business and you're a key man. So like you're 50-50. If something happens to you, our business will take a couple $1 million loss. I can get an insurance policy on you and the business can write it off as, just a business expense.
Thinking about the cash value policy, I mean, I know very little about it, but I've had people try to sell them to me and explain it to me, and I couldn't remember if it was tax deductible or not.
Yeah.
So it's only the amount that grows in there over time that's tax-free.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And the death benefit that people get, the hundreds of thousands, millions, is tax-free as well.
So let's say you want to cash in on your life insurance policy, but you don't die. Is there a way to do that? Is there a way to pull out all the cash that you put in all those years?
You can pull out like 85 to 90% of it.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not that
And the
big
thing
of a
about it is
penalty.
you can withdraw all the money if you want to, but then you may incur taxes. So the reason why people take loans against it is because that's how you get it tax-free.
Yep.
And what happens is a lot of times the question is, why do I have to loan my own money to myself? Well, a lot of the companies, the loan percentage is 0.5, 1%.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nothing.
After 10 to 15 years, a lot of them is 0%.
So how much interest does your life insurance policy earn?
On
Is
average,
there a
5-6%.
That's still great too.
Tax-free. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying it's the best, but as far as savings go, you're looking at bonds, high yield savings, it could be used as that because you still have a death benefit. And another thing that people don't know too is the insurance. So let's say you got $1 million policy. If you had certain medical issues like cancer, heart attack, strokes, you can use the $1 million while you're living because the insurance company is incentivized to keep you alive as long as possible because they're going to make more money. So they'll advance you some of your death benefit while you're still alive. And a lot of people don't know this, but the number one cause for bankruptcy is actually medical bills.
Yeah.
Is it?
I thought they couldn't hold that against you.
Yeah.
If you go to the hospital and you break your arm and you don't pay for it, and you have $0 in your account, what happens if you don't pay for it? It goes against your credit. It's not gonna. Why would someone file bankruptcy for that? Not paying their medical bills.
That's a good question.
I just feel like we'll
I don't
walk
know
away
that.
from it. And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, so like for instance, my dad just died, but we had to take our inheritance and pay off all of his medical bills first. I'm like, why would you do that? He's dead. Who
Yeah.
cares?
But
Move
one
on.
thing that happens is some of it is the medical, but also the ricochet that comes from it. So like one of my stories is my dad had kidney failure and he was an engineer and he was a breadwinner. So when he started doing dialysis at a clinic, he was doing it 3 or 4 hours. He couldn't be an engineer anymore. And he was on disability. So he was getting 60% of his income. So like, okay, maybe health insurance takes care of some of the medical stuff, but what happens to the home? What happens to just
That
the
you can't
car?
pay for, yeah.
All that other stuff. So sometimes it's not necessarily the medical expense itself, but all the things that's related to it.
Now I want to move into 401k.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe in 401ks?
So
I saw your video. It was very interesting. It didn't sound like you did. You didn't say you didn't, but it didn't sound like you
I'm
did.
gonna give you a very crisp answer. There's an advantage and disadvantage to it. So there's immediate tax advantages that you can get with 401ks. And also you may have a company that matches you, so it's free money. Take it. I just think people sell it the wrong way. They sell it as like this great investment vehicle, and it's not. It's the way to generate a little bit more retirement income, but it's not an end all be all. I'm from a small town in Georgia, so people don't talk about finance, and they just think if you got a 401k,
You're set.
retired. Yeah, and that's the premise that people are under, and it's like no, it's just like another typical investment where it can grow, but
You
it's
can't
not.
touch it until you're 65. That's the
That's what I
problem.
don't like.
And I think
Yeah,
the biggest
and-
misconception is people think that so the money goes in tax free and it gets matched by their company. Let's say up to 6% or whatever the legal max is. I don't even know. Then when they go to take it out, they still have this conception it's going to be tax free coming out. And that's the part people just don't think all the way through. And I think it was Grant Cardone I was watching.
Saw the video.
Yeah. I was like, no, he breaks it down. He's like, you're paying taxes. And he was arguing with somebody. He's like, you're paying taxes on both sides. Like, don't do that. I mean, for some people it works. Maybe they're just not good savers and they know that they have to do it. So they have a plan. I have a 401k only because I worked for Neiman Marcus for 11 years or whatever it was. And I put in whatever they matched. But that only has $40,000 in it. And that was, I'm sure the entire time that I worked there, I didn't have it. But that just wouldn't be enough, right? It doesn't earn enough for me. And that's still going to get taxed coming out. I would rather, on the short term, buy real estate or something else that can make me money instantly.
Yeah,
And
you
that's
get
how he feels, too.
depreciation and everything else. There's just too much advantages. And so I have a 401k too that I never touch anymore. It was just early on. We were doing the same thing for our employees. We had a 401k and we were matching. And so I was putting money in there. But then now when I want to go buy properties or something, I mean, it's just in there and I have to take a big hit if I want to take it out. And then I can't really touch it till I'm 65. I mean, it just can't really grow and make a lot of money.
The two things to think about is that taxes are more than likely going to go up as we get older. So you get the tax break today, which some business owners, it makes sense. You need a tax break. But when you need it most, you're probably going to pay more for it. And then two, I'm an entrepreneur, so I like having cash on hand or money that I can have access to. And so that's why people like insurance as a savings because it's accessible. It's not you locking your money up until you're 60, 65.
If you did want to get a loan on it, how fast is it since it's your own cash? Is it just
2 days.
okay?
You know,
yeah.
you got to wire.
I was just
but-
curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we do it all the time. We just put money in, say, hey, we want to reinvest in something. You just apply online and they send it to you in 2 days.
Okay.
Another thing is that you don't have any credit checks or anything. So it's your money. You can use it for college. You can use it for business. You can use it to pay off personal loans, whatever. And that's why people like it, just because there's so much flexibility with it. So to answer your question, 401ks, I mean, it's a good starter, but if the person who's watching this and you think, oh, I got a 401k and I'm set, it's probably not what you think it is. So really read into it.
So basically with a 401k, if you need to play it safe because you're not a good saver, you're not an entrepreneur, you just want the easy street,
Take 'em.
then go for it, take it.
And if somebody's matching you, take it. Like it's
But if you're a hustler and you're an entrepreneur and you want to make
No.
that $100,000 that you would have put away into $1 million by the time you retire, invest in real estate or invest in something else that can make money
absolutely.
on the short term faster.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, this is what I tell people. This is for business owners. So, and you guys follow Alex Hormozy?
Yes.
So he always talk about the S&P 500
Mm-hmm.
instead of the S&P 500. He says that, hey, when you're building, you should be taking all your money and reinvesting it in yourself. So the courses, the classes, the licenses, whatever. And so at best, if your 401k does 10%, which it probably won't, but at best, let's say you put $1,000 in, you're going to get 100 back at the end of the year. Now, the question is, do you think you can invest $1,000 into some course or learning some new skill and make an extra $100?
There you go. That's the way we look at it too.
It's like just one skill away from
One skill away.
making a ton of money.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I mean, you literally could go and beg for it on the side of the street and get $100.
And then another thing in that same video you're talking about, and whenever we start talking IRAs, it just kind of goes over my head and I stop listening. But I watched your video and it broke it down very simply. The difference between a 401k and an IRA, how they work, which one your employee matches, which one you do on your own, and why you always want to have an IRA. Let's hear that.
Absolutely. So like this is stuff that you just assume everyone knows.
This is the basic stuff we should be
Correct.
taught in high school.
Yep.
It's a basic life skill.
Yep.
I just know that I put like a couple thousand because my bookkeeper does it for me and
Yeah.
my CPA does it for me, but I don't really know why until I watch your video. So
Yeah.
that was
So
interesting.
for the person who's confused about this, 401k is a tax code. And so the IRS knows that it's administered through a business. That's where it comes from. So you have 403B, 527, excuse me. Those are just tax codes, and it lets them know that a business provided this retirement account. IRA is simply individual retirement account. It's just something that you structure.
Never knew what it stood for until just right now.
Something you structure for yourself.
Okay.
So a lot of times they function very similar. It's just a tax code.
And the main difference with the IRA is you don't get taxed coming out because you got taxed putting the money in. Is
Correct.
that way I understood it?
Correct. So if you get a Roth IRA, you take it's after tax money, net money, and then you put it in. So because you pay for it after taxes, when it grows, you get to take it tax free. And a 401k typically is going to be gross. So before you get your paycheck, they'll go ahead and take it. You don't pay taxes on it yet. So what Uncle Sam is saying, hey, we'll help you out today, pay us back later. And with the IRAs, it's more like, okay, pay your hit today, but because you paid your hit today, it's going to grow tax free. And most people, it's always case by case, but most people it's more wise to do something like a Roth IRA because, like I said, taxes are going to be more than likely going to be higher in the future. So it's like, do you want to pay now or later?
Now or then, yeah.
And you're going to need it more then than you do now.
So then my next question, because I got my list here.
Let's go.
You did not say this in your videos, but I want to know. Maybe I didn't scroll far enough down. This is something that I'm always struggling with. I don't like to have debt. I don't even wait until my credit card cycle is done before making a payment. But I also own a business and I charge a lot of money in manufacturing on this card. So weekly I make payments to pay it down as soon as it's on there. So I don't think I ever really pay much interest on the card. But when it comes to properties, I have a really hard time not paying them off if I have the extra cash. He's always saying, you never pay off your real estate. Keep it as long as you can and put your money in an interest-bearing savings account. But what would you do in a situation where right now, I bought the building a few years ago and interest rates were low. Well, so let's just say for even numbers that my interest rate is 5% here. Now, interest rates are really good on savings accounts. You can go to Chase and get a 5.5% savings account and have it guaranteed without putting it in a mutual fund. So it's guaranteed money. If I had $1 million left on this building and had $1 million on that 5% savings, do I keep it in the 5% savings, the $1 million there, or do I pay off the building that has $1 million left on it that has 5%?
I don't think you put the money in the savings personally.
Yeah, I do too. Number one, it's way more liquid, right? So if you have to go pull your money out of the building after you pay it off, you have to go refinance it. It could take 30, 45 days if something happened and you need to get your money out. And if your interest rate's only 5%, you can go make more than 5% on your $1 million right now. And so that's the question you have to ask yourself is like, can I go make more with this $1 million than paying off my building? So number one, it's not liquid. And then number two, you think you can go make more than the 5%. And like you said, there's CDs and stuff that are paying 6.5% and stuff now. So you just have to see how the times are. When interest rates went up to some crazy number, or you had a 12% interest rate on your building, yeah, you probably want to pay it down or try to get it refinanced. But I wouldn't spend the $1 million to go pay off the building.
I always struggle with that because I like to save,
especially
for
if you
like
had tenants and you
like a rainy day. Like, what if something ever goes really wrong and my business, like for 3 months, we have another, bio warfare.
Wouldn't you rather have the $1
situation.
million and just pay the $5,000 a month on your building? if something went really wrong and you needed like some
I'd rather
savings.
not have anything to pay for and just.
No, I get it.
So he used to have a partner, and his partner wanted to always pay everything off, and he didn't want to pay anything off. So they had different mindsets.
I do think
on,
it's good and bad though. There's like bad leverage, and I'm not saying that. It's just on real estate. If you can find something that cash flows and you have a tenant in it, then I don't see why you would go spend a bunch more money trying to pay off that building when I could go use it to buy 5 more buildings.
Yeah.
And then now I have $5 million worth of properties instead of $1 million worth of properties.
Yeah. So obviously it depends
And I
on the
got
person.
that much more depreciation every single year and pay less taxes. And so there's just a lot of huge benefits to it.
The reason why I said if I were you, I wouldn't pay it off because I think you have the skill set to
Yeah,
go make
she does.
10, 15, 20%.
Yeah.
If it was somebody back home, like my family, I'm like, you might want to just pay the property off, because I know you're going to squander the $1 million.
Yeah.
So like, go ahead and take care of it. But personal finance is personal. So like my wife she tends to be a little bit more conservative. So sometimes we do make things mathematically that are not wise decisions, but for her, if she has a clear mind, she works better. So sometimes we do pay stuff off where in my mind, I'm like, no, let's not do it. But if I know it's going to make her more productive and give her more peace of mind, it's like, okay, we'll do that.
That's how she is.
Well, women like security a little bit more.
I like
and
the
it's-
security. I just don't want it like if something ever happened in oil and gas. I don't want all the pressure to be put on me.
Yeah.
Where I have to pay for these 2 houses that I can't afford on my own, right?
Yeah.
I can afford that on what I make. I'd like to have that safety net that all those things are paid off, that if there is some sort of slump or something weird happens, that it's not all stuck on me. And I kind of feel like that for the business.
Men
too.
are like,
Well,
we gonna go get it.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah.
she's also not saying how much cash reserves you have. There's a lot of
Yeah, a lot
other
of
scenarios
factors.
that goes into it. So there's just so many factors that go into it. But if you're just asking, what should I do with my $1 million, pay off my building, and that's only at a 5% loan for the next 20 years and it's paid off, or go do something else with it, you should go do something else with it.
So this is an education podcast. Let's talk about depreciation. One of you guys just mentioned depreciation. Who wants to speak to depreciation here?
You got it.
So speak to depreciation. What is depreciation, and how does that benefit someone who owns a business that owns real estate?
So if you're
And how do they do it? Be detailed. Don't skim through it. I want to know the details because even I am asking this question for myself, and I should know the answer.
So if you're buying a building, let's say it's worth $1 million, minus the land. So if the building itself is worth $1 million, I think that they do commercial. Is it 27 years or is it 30 years?
Something like
I
that.
think it's 27. So they'll depreciate the building. You get the $1 million benefit, but they'll depreciate it over 27 years. So you don't get that much benefit. But when you do a cost segregation, you can bonus depreciate a ton of stuff.
What does cost segregation mean? Slow it down and break it down for the dum-dums like me.
It's a cost segregation study that you pay a firm or your accountant, but it's mostly like a third-party firm that will go do a study on your building and bonus depreciate. Go in there and say, hey, your ACs and this, and we're going to grab all this stuff that's going to wear out faster and give you all the credit for that, the depreciation for it. And
So I've heard you say take out the depreciation up front. What does that mean in the first 5 years?
So they'll bonus depreciate a portion of that $1 million, but sometimes it's a lot and you get the benefit of it. So let's say that I can bonus depreciate from that $1 million, $300,000.
Because let's just slow it down a
Okay.
little bit too, because you're still going kind of fast.
Okay.
So the building is worth $1 million.
Sure.
And this company comes in and says, really, you have $300,000 worth of items inside the building that aren't in the best condition. We're going to depreciate them as they could be needing new. So the building's not really valued at $1 million anymore. It's only $700 because these other 300 things aren't that great anymore.
Because they're still going to let you depreciate the building over 27 years, the IRS will, and the government. So
I'm just saying what the basic term of depreciation means, right? How you're getting these numbers, like why you would hire this company.
they're going to go in and bonus depreciate
Okay.
and segregate all the items that you're able to take depreciation up front instead of using your normal 27 years that you're going to get on your $1 million that you're going to be tax deductible. You're going to be able to bonus depreciate a ton of that stuff. And so he's going to say, okay, your bonus depreciation is $300,000 for rough numbers. So let's say I made $350,000 in income that year from whatever job, selling real estate. I'm able to take that, apply it against my income, and so now I pay $50,000 in taxes. And what if I bought a distressed building and fix it
So
up?
you're saying you were going to have to write a check to the IRS for $350, not what
Yes.
you profited for the
Yeah,
year.
let's
as
say
your-
I
on your
owed
paycheck.
$350,
You owe $350 the taxes.
but then I
Okay,
got bonus
yes.
depreciation on my building for $300.
So that's a lot.
And then now I own this building. I have a tenant in it. They're paying it off for me, but then I paid $50,000 in tax that year instead of $350. Now I can take my $300 and go buy more buildings. We buy distressed buildings. So let's say you buy a building. We never buy a building at retail value. So if we buy a building and let's say we buy it for $885, we'll use a recent example, put about $150 into this one. We have a tenant looking at it that will make it, the cap rate will probably make the value about $2.5 million. So we'll have about $1,450,000 in equity. We'll get all the depreciation from that. So
How would you do the depreciation at that point? Because now it's a brand new, pretty building and it's perfect.
depends on how much, like the cost of repairs and everything else. That I'm not a cost segregation expert, but that's why I hired the third party firm, and then they can tell me how much I can bonus depreciate.
I've never done that before with any of these 3 buildings, so I suggest we do that on Monday.
You should.
Because
And
I feel
so,
like I pay so much more taxes than him. I'm like,
but
how
so
the fuck does this
the building that
happen?
I bought for $1 million, I made $1.5 million in equity, and I'm gonna put a tenant in it, and they're gonna be paying off my $1 million loan. But then I capture all the depreciation, so then I can go buy another building with the money I save from the taxes and just like buy more and more and more. Yeah.
And that's the kind of education stuff that he wants to do at some point.
Well, no, I
because
think that a lot of people don't know
some-
about it. That's why his videos are so good. Is you don't learn anything in high school,
No.
and unless you have it like me making a lot of mistakes and paying a lot of taxes and experience all this stuff, you don't know. Like you don't just wake up one day and go, "Oh, I didn't know you could cost segregate this whole building and do this." And so his videos are really good that break down stuff that you do not learn in high school and your parents do not teach you. And it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. Something I didn't know, we had a guest the other day telling us about Airbnbs, Airbnb expert. He goes, you can cost segregation Airbnb. I said, really? It's like, I didn't know that. I thought it was just commercial buildings. He goes, nope, 100% you can. I was like, interesting. And so I was like, I didn't know that either. And so anyways, there's just so many different ways. And it's the best way to build wealth and pay low taxes. There's just I don't know of a better way really.
You just have to remember that money in motion that's when it's doing what it's supposed to do. So when you pay something off, you stop the motion a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how he feels. He never believes in paying things off like that. Not
that's
quickly
different though.
before.
The leverage is different. I don't believe in a bunch of bad debt where you have all these car loans and all this stuff and credit card debt. That's terrible. I'm just saying for real estate, which I'm good at.
I'm specifically talking about real estate.
Yeah,
not
I'd
cars
rather,
and
if I had $1 million,
junk.
I'd rather go buy a bunch more buildings, get a bunch more tax benefit, build way more equity than just pay off the one building and then just go, well, I got to make a bunch more money so I can, or make my $10,000 a month I'm making from the building and just wait till it builds up to go buy another building 3 years later or 5 years later or whatever.
And that's what I was going to say. That process is slow. Like, I mean, you have the peace of mind, but it's going to take you 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get back.
And start to go buy another
Correct.
building
So
and
now
then get the
you-
tax benefits. And so you're just doing it a lot slower. And that feels very boring to me. I want to go fast and
Unstimulated.
big.
Yeah. But I'm just a huge proponent of having some type of liquidity with money.
Me too. I think it does depend on your cash reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. You don't want to go and even in real estate, you don't want to go over leverage
I wouldn't
yourself.
do
If
it
you
if
have
it was like only
$0 in your
$5 left.
account,
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
you definitely want cash reserves to, make the payment on the building if it didn't lease for a long time or whatever the case is. But I think it's good using debt to grow a real estate portfolio that cash flows really well.
Yeah. And Warren Buffett is famous for saying, like, it's only risky because you don't know what you're doing. Like, this is your niche. Like,
To me, stocks feel risky. Like I would never get leverage on stocks.
feels
I would
about
never.
gambling.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either.
I know nothing about them. I just don't. I don't take the time to study them. I'm just not for me. And so for me, that would feel like bad leverage. And some people, stock traders or whoever, they can go out and make millions of dollars, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I saw Dave Ramsey. Somebody interviewed him this year, and he told him, he said, "Hey, I feel imbalanced." He's like, "I need to balance my portfolio. It's 80% real estate and 20% stocks." And Dave said, "Okay, why do you think you're imbalanced?" And he was like, "I just feel like it's supposed to be even." And Dave's asked him, he said, "Well, your knowledge in comparison to stocks, what percentage would you say you know about real estate, and what percentage do you think you know about stocks?" And he was like, "Well, I know like 89% real estate." Then he was like, "Well, your portfolio is balanced. You playing a game that you know the rules and you know how to win it."
That's a good answer.
It was perfect. That opened my mind because
Because you can't give a ratio for everyone. It
I have,
really
like-
depends on your knowledge and experience.
Correct.
Yeah.
I have like 1% stocks or something. I don't even know. I bought some oil stocks during the pandemic, and just because I was in the industry, I'm like, oh, these are going to come back, and
Yeah.
made good money on it. But I still didn't want to go dump all my money into stocks just because I believed something was going to happen. I don't know. I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
The only thing I knew at the time was oil was -50 and it was going to go up, and these were super majors, and I knew the stock was just trading too low. That was it.
That was
But-
kind of like when I put all my money in Washington Mutual. So there's no way they're going to go out of business, and they collapsed, and I lost everything.
oh my God.
I put it all
When
in
she
there.
was younger, yeah.
I mean, I was younger. I say everything. It was, to me, it was a lot of money at the time. It was, I think, $5,000, but it was all I had. It was like my entire, tax refund check plus what I had in my savings. I'm like, there's no way Washington, but I knew nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I just had my little ING account. I just pumped it all in there, and then boom, gone in like a week. I'm like, no.
And that's a lesson for like all the entrepreneurs. That if
Yeah.
you are heavily invested and leveraged in what you know, that's your greatest likelihood of
Success.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I think so too.
It is. I mean, like for me, I got a couple other things that I'm thinking about doing, but I'm actually thinking about getting private equity and buying other agencies because I know insurance, I know the agency, I know the marketing. And it's like, it would be so much easier for me to take somebody on board them, get in our processes and get them up and running than it would be for me to just get right in real estate.
And just managing the business right and knowing how to sell it.
Because I've done it.
Yeah. Basically buying their contacts at this point.
That's it. And that's what all the big insurance companies do. They buy agencies like us.
You're buying a book of business.
Yeah, that's it. That's the name of the game. You build it. We have a 7 to 10 multiplier. So
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And if you add, like right now, the biggest thing is tech. So that's some of why I do the social media because the book of business, they want it. But if you have like some type of tech, some type of CRM, some type of marketing system, they really want that. And they'll pay you 10 to 12x. So you build a book of business of 10 million, you can sell it for 100.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is tech money.
Yeah. And that's
because retail is like 2 to 5.
Is it?
Depends on if you're selling your own brand or not. Yeah. Retail stores are like 1 to 2 because nobody wants to be in brick and mortar. The e-com is worth more.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything proprietary, it's not interesting to them. They're just buying and reselling something else.
Yeah. So for insurance, if you're doing 2 to 3 mil, it may be 3 or 4x. If you start getting to 7 to 10-ish a year, you're
once you get over 10, that's when the numbers start really multiplying.
right. And it's if you do it
Same
long
thing in our
enough.
industry.
I don't want to say it's easy to do. Obviously, it's not easy, but if you just do it long enough, you'll get
build
there.
that.
It's just most people want to get in and get out within 5 or 6 years, and anything's possible. Not saying it's not, but if you got a 10-year play in insurance, you can get to a couple 10, 15, 20 million, and that's it. So I've seen it. So, and I've seen a lot of people who do it who aren't that bright either. They're patient.
You're like, damn, if they can do it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do 10 times bigger.
Yeah, and then another like equity play is that I see a lot of guys now, they're partnering with other agencies. So they're saying, hey, you by yourself, you try to sell it 2 or 3x. That's all like create a conglomerate. Obviously, we got to split the pie, but we're going to get 10, 12x. So
that makes
this
sense.
pie is bigger.
Yep.
Because when they buy us, they see all of this instead of just your little mom
Yeah,
and
because the
pop.
multiples totally change then. My next question is something that's really, really simple. To me, my dad taught me at a very young age, you don't ever pay a bill late. I don't care if you have $5 left in your account, you're going to make 4 and you're going to make that credit card payment. So he was really big on paying everything on time. We never had a lot of money or very much at all. We were very lower middle class. Credit was always really important to him. He's like, your credit is everything. So when you turn 16, 17 years old, however old I was, went to Express and I got my very first credit card. It was $200 limit, but it was a great place to start. I couldn't get approved for a Capital One just yet, so I started there to build my credit. I got my own checking account, Savings of America back in the day before it was Washington Mutual, and we started the whole process of me learning how to pay the bills. Tell me what is, for someone who didn't have a parent that taught them these things, what are the best 3 tips that you can give them on how to build their credit at a young age?
Exactly what you did. One, get some type of credit card, just $100, $200 limit. That's the best thing because you have to establish credit. So the main thing is, do you have credit and how long have you had it? And so you can't start that. I mean, 18, go for it. But if you have parents who have decent credit, you can be added as an authorized user.
Does that help with your credit at all?
It does.
Okay.
So basically, let's say you're up 15 and your parents have decent credit. You're on their credit score that whole time. So you're basically borrowing their credit. So when you turn 18, you'll have advanced credit.
My parents did not trust me with that, but I went and got my own. But a place like, going to Best Buy or what, like a department store or retail store type thing will give you a credit card with absolutely no credit history. And that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Now, another thing too is utilities. So if you still live with your parents or you have roommates or something, get the electricity or cable in your name. That helps because that's what I did in college. We had roommates. They didn't know it, but I told them just pay me for the utilities and I'll take care of it, which was still a bad idea.
Sneaky Sam over there.
Yeah, actually, it backfired.
Yeah, he's taking the risk. That's
But that's another way that you can start building your credit, just showing like utilities, credit cards at 18. And don't go crazy on it, guys. Just get something, pay it back every month. Because that's the thing they're looking for is just, are you going to use it and are you going to pay it back on time?
And tips and tricks on how to make payments. And I know maybe you don't even know this. I'll say it if you don't. How much should people pay? Like, I'm going to give some numbers here. Let's say their credit card is $1,000 limit. Okay. They have $600 charged on that card that month. Their minimum payment is $50. They really don't have a lot to give this month. Like, bills are tight, hurricane happened, barrel just rolled through here. They didn't get to work that week. How much should they pay?
Ideally, you would pay half of it because ideally you want to be at 30% utilization every month. So if you have $1,000 limit, 30% is $300.
And I think people don't realize that keeping not charging and maxing out your card every single month and letting that balance revolve onto the next one, that's a huge factor in your credit score too.
One of the
And
biggest
also
things.
not just ever paying the minimum payment.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think there's no problem with just paying the minimum payment. That does not look good against your credit.
No.
You got to always pay more than the minimum payment. Keep your balances less than 50 or 70% less than how much you have allotted to spend.
That's the education piece, because we hear minimum. We think, okay, if I do this, I'm in the clear. And it's like, no, you're not necessarily having the creditors come knock at your door, but it is dinging you. And the longer you carry those balances, the less likely you look like you'll ever pay it back. Now, they're charging you 20%, so they don't mind as long as you just keep paying the minimum. They want you to do that. But as far as credit goes and being able to buy cars, houses, assets, yeah, it's not a good look.
So when I first met Sean, I'm telling you, he didn't have a credit card. 26 years old, 27 years old. You did not have a credit card when I met you. Maybe
We had a business credit card though.
You had a business credit card, and it was an American Express.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a credit card.
But it was just you paid off at the end of every month.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't have a ton of credit, and
He said, "What? What do you mean my credit score is whatever it was?"
I didn't have a ton of like credit like that, like bad debt. I could go to the bank and borrow whatever I wanted, and just for real estate and other stuff I was doing. But I forget what we were trying to buy, and they're like, "Well, you don't really have any credit history."
Sean's like, "But I have money," and
Yeah.
they were like,
It's like, this is
"We
stupid. I don't
care."
have any debt, so you're not going to give me any credit.
So then
It was
really
we were pretty young.
challenging for him to understand. He's like, "But you have money, and I can show proof of funds that I have money, but you're not going to give me the whatever because I don't have credit." So you're saying I have to owe a lot of people a lot of money in order to buy things. That's what you're saying. So I think a lot of people don't understand that concept, or if they pay cash for everything, or debit cards or whatever, how important it is to have credit and be able to build up your credit so you can buy things later. I know you got kind of a situation where you had a partner at a young age who was older than you that helped you secure some of these loans, but most kids walking off the street without any credit to their name can't just walk into a bank and get a loan or get credit. So it's really important.
I definitely want to emphasize this too, because growing up, credit is bad, right? You don't want to owe anybody. Just because you have credit, guys, doesn't mean you owe people. It just means that you use it and you pay it back in a timely fashion.
Yeah, your ability to pay. That's all your credit scores is the ability to pay back.
Pay
And this
back.
is very simple knowledge. And some people are going to be like, this is too low level for me. But there's going to be somebody listening that doesn't really understand the basic concept of that.
It's the same thing. Like, again, personal finance is personal. If you have issues with paying stuff back, then yeah, maybe a credit card, you need to wait. But like some people, like again, Dave Ramsey, he's like, never have a credit card.
Oh, really? I didn't know he.
Oh yeah, no debt at all. Me and my wife, we pay ours every month. We've always kept like.
I think
zero
he's talking to the average consumer, right?
Right.
Because they're going to go and
run it up,
run it up, and then they're paying 26%, or I don't even know what it is now.
Yeah.
The average person is going to go get in debt. They can never pay off their credit cards, and so probably what people get in trouble one month, and then they go and put all their stuff on their credit card, and they can't pay it back.
You probably see so many cases though. People get themselves so deep in credit card debt, and they're just like begging for help. Like, what do I do? And he's probably credit it's bad.
Yeah. And he's not wrong because people do use credit cards to go buy shoes.
Especially from Instagram. They see all the fancy
Correct.
things. They want them now.
Well,
It's the now culture.
I think the problem too is back to the education stuff. When you get out of high school, nobody even showed you anything that you don't even know what the interest rate is.
No.
So a lot
You
of
don't
people
know what it means.
Yes. And so, credit card, I'll take that. Your car payment's only going to be $400 a month, but now it's for 72 months. You're going to be upside down. The interest rate's 10%. And so I don't think people understand, and they just go and do it. And it's the financial education that no one has when they get out of high school.
I know people don't understand it.
No.
I talk to them every day.
Or a mortgage for a house, or
Right.
the way money works, or just basic finance.
Or just having your money in a checking account.
yeah.
You're getting paid 0.01%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have $100,000 into a Bank of America, Chase, just typical account, you're getting $10 in interest every year.
Listen, I am 40. I'm 42. I know we said 43. We're rounding up because I'll be 43 in a month. But I'm 42 years old, and I will have to say, it was only 1 year ago that I went to Chase, and I was like, I am hearing people that I know with a 5% account.
Yeah, they're not going to
I
tell you
am
that.
making more money than my paycheck is at JKC on the interest on my money that was sitting in a fucking checking account. I mean, it wasn't always there, but for many, many years doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even realize that the rates I just was uneducated that there was those things offered. Because back in the day, it used to be CDs. Like when I first met him, he was putting everything in CDs and borrowing against the CDs. And then the CDs went to shit, where we were only getting like 1 or 2% on CDs. And so he quit putting money in the CDs. I just didn't know that there was any accounts out there that were safe accounts, not risky going up and down until I heard about that account. And now it's like every time I get a distribution, I'm like, move it over here, move it over here. I like, can't move it over there fast enough. Even like when we sold our house and I made a good chunk on our money until I was ready to give him the money, I threw it in there for a month and made money on it.
But whenever interest rates are super high like they are right now, there's always
That benefit.
fixed income stuff that is no risk.
Yeah, it does well.
So that's the benefit of high rates is like it's really easy to make 6% on your money. You can just put it anywhere and it's super safe.
Yeah, you got bonds and treasury bills that you
Yeah.
can get 5-6% like guaranteed in 6 months, 12 months.
What is a very common question that you get people asking you because they're embarrassed to ask their friends or they don't know how to research it? What do you get the most frequently on Instagram or TikTok in your DMs?
So one of the things that people always ask, we kind of just covered the credit card, and it's honestly the interest rates because they don't understand that. Hey, if you borrow $1,000 and that's 26%, if you don't pay it back by the end of the year, that's $260 that you're paying in addition to it. Not like paying the credit card down, it's just interest. So the biggest thing is people don't understand that they're bleeding out with having so many bad debts because it's tens and hundreds, and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but at the end of the year, you realize that I've been paying every single month, but I didn't necessarily get out the hole. I didn't make any headway.
So for that $1,000 purse you bought, it really cost you $3,000.
It's going to cost you, seriously, yeah, it's going to cost you $3,000. And too, like we just talked about checking accounts, like people don't understand that there's places that you can put money safe. And again, it's not going to make you rich, but if you got $100,000 sitting in 5-6%, it's an extra 5-6 grand. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty good vacation, right?
Exactly.
And
It's your car note.
It's your car note. Yeah. And it's the same thing. My mom just sold a house too, and she's just trying to figure things out. I'm like, whatever you do, don't just sit it with Chase. I mean, they're not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, but anyone can walk in and get that 5% account. At first I thought it was like only like the fancy people who are in the wealth management can get that, but it's actually accessible to us. And it was when I first started, it was only 4%. That was about a year ago. And then it moved up to 5% because the interest rates just kept getting higher. So my savings account kept
Gentry,
growing without me knowing.
you're not just anybody though. You got the special account.
Well, no, I mean, anyone can get it because I didn't get the fancy people stuff because I was trying to move over to the fancy side of the bank to get that. They're like, well, you don't have enough money to be in the fancy people stuff. But I think anybody can walk in and get that. I'm constantly referring her people. I'm like, anytime someone asks about the 5% account, I talk about like, call her, let her figure it out too.
The thing about this is it's all a game. People forget that business and money is just a game. And so like the bank is incentivized not to tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like they're advertising. I didn't see that shit on Instagram or on TV. They didn't tell me
So they're
that
paying
they
us
have those
point.
features. But it's
Yeah.
how they keep people who want to know about those things, their clients, but they don't want to advertise it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there.
Yeah,
It wouldn't make any
correct.
money.
Because they're giving you 0.01% and they're charging 20% on the credit card.
They're
So
not
they're
gonna say,
making
sure, let me give you these extra $500 a month just because we like you, thanks.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just a lot of little things like that people don't know that they're simple hacks too. This is not, like you said, you don't have to be a millionaire to take advantage of it. It's just you need to know it.
Why do you think they don't teach it in school? Like what? Just simple class all the way 8th grade, 9th
Yeah,
grade
if
through
they
12th
think
grade.
it's mandatory that you dissect a frog
But they're
in
wondering
college, why is it not mandatory?
to learn
you
about
know?
how money works.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the quote from Rockefeller?
Mm-hmm.
He said, we don't need a nation of thinkers, we need a nation of workers. So they were going into the industrial age. He didn't want people, not necessarily he didn't want people to be independent, but he needed more people dependent on what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so he
Working in
wanted to create,
factories and-
a
People are going to
system.
compete with him. Yeah.
Correct. They want to create a system where people would be openly compliant to just doing whatever as long as we fed them.
But they're wondering where, like, how are we going to help Americans? Everyone's so poor. This percentage is still poor, and this, but they don't teach them anything about money. So it's like, what do you think's going to happen?
So this is where the educational system
And then your
has
parents
failed.
don't teach you, like they didn't teach me. You know, they just weren't as sophisticated either. I mean,
Correct.
they knew what an interest rate was and all that stuff, but they never said, hey, let me show you how to do this, or just nobody ever thinks about it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an afterthought.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I have a weird thesis. I think the college attendance will go down because people are starting to understand we need application. I need what is going to make me more money.
Yes.
So 50 years ago, like my dad graduated, I think, late 80s, 90s. He said, when I went to college, everybody got a job making pretty decent money at the time. Now that's not the case.
Because it's so oversaturated. that
Correct.
It just
So
isn't
the value goes
expected.
down.
Yeah, now it's
But,
expected.
but it's more expensive than it was.
But I think it will become less expected.
I think so. And
Oh,
that's
it
why I
already-
think people.
But
start-
it already is.
It
too.
already is, but I think it's more and more like no one's going to require. Like right now, if you want to be a medical sales rep, it's a requirement to have a 4-year degree. So they're going to stop requiring that. You know, if you have all these extra for any type of job, these courses that you're paying for on your own, these fast trackers, you know, a real estate course or whatever, you
Yeah.
can easily get a job as maybe a commercial real estate agent because you've had this course versus a 4-year degree in business or biology,
Yeah.
right?
Because at the end of the day, skills pays the bills. It's not just knowing something and being able to have straight A's in 10 different subjects,
Yeah.
because that's useless in the open market. So like you said, online education, that type of stuff, that's where the world is going, because I'm 18. I want to learn how to start an insurance brokerage.
Here's some
Give
step by
me
step.
all the skills
Yeah.
that it takes to just do that.
And
I'll
now
be
it's
successful.
available. So the access to information is
Yes.
so much better. And so it's so cool. That's one reason we started the podcast. But if they have access to the right information, it just fast tracks their whole life.
Yes. Nothing that I did in college did I apply to, really, I say nothing. 10% of what I learned in college do I apply in my business today. The other 90% was just a bunch of bullshit where I was following a copy and paste to pass a test.
Uh-huh.
No one really taught me how to do depreciation in my accounting class. I'm not able to walk out learning any of those or applying any of that. Someone speaks accounting to me, I'm like, I'm gonna leave the room. You figure that shit out. I can't look at it.
And the 10% that you learn in college, the question is, do you think you could ever learn it outside of college?
I think it was very beneficial for me to learn, not that I was good at it, is organizational behavior. I feel like that was, of all of my classes, that helped me better learn how to work on a team, because I'm better at working independently, I think, than working on teams. But you got to have a team in order to get you on the train and take you all the way. You have to have people that you can trust, and that's really hard for me to do. So I did learn a lot how that was. I mean, even in that class, everything was team-based. Your grade was based on what your team did. And I quickly learned that I was definitely putting more effort in than the rest of my team. This is how it goes sometimes when you're the owner of a business, like you're putting in more than everybody else, and learning how to balance that, pick up the slack for other people,
but that
and
was-
still bring an amazing product to the
That was
market.
just one class.
But it was one class. I'm saying it was like 10% of what I learned. I mean, I didn't use any of that
Or
math shit.
or
The biology stuff, I have to say, I learned so much in that. I took it 3 times to get it right. But I learned so much of that I applied to even doing IVF for us. I understood basic meiosis and mitosis, and I understood what DNA was. And some of the basics of that, I think I applied, and some other things that I've learned about, I mean, all this health shit that he's into, like mitochondria and what this does. I feel like all of that stuff I learned about basic cellular structure and things that I apply to life. But business-wise, not a lot of
Not
it.
even business though, but there's a handful of things if you give everyone, like growing up, I think that they would be successful. And it's communication, which, you know, I didn't have a lot of when I was growing up, or like taught a lot of, and sales, communication, you know, leadership. And you don't need much more, and you'll end up being successful in whatever you're going to end up doing. Whatever, I mean, if you want to work for somebody, you still rise to the top, right?
Yeah.
If you want to work for yourself, you'll still rise to the top. And so there's just not many things. And so we're definitely going to go a different route for our son. He's a super late talker, so we're just kind of keeping him around kids for probably till 1st or 2nd grade, or maybe even less, probably 1st grade, just so he can be in there a little bit longer around a bunch of kids, because of course, he doesn't have a brother or sister, older brother or sister. And so, but yeah, we're going to create our own homeschool / like private teaching program for him. And
To be honest with you, everything I do, that's what I'm gearing up for.
yeah,
To create the ecosystem where people can get the applicable skills, knowledge that they need.
it's kind of my passion now too. So we'll
We
reconnect
could
in the
definitely
future.
collaborate.
That's
I would
I'm-
love to hear about
I'm-
real estate.
Are you doing courses now? Did I read on your
So-
Instagram that you're doing some sort of education?
I haven't launched it yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
When is it? When are you launching?
August.
Oh, so really soon. Okay, so when you're launching, it's going to be different categories. You have a website where they can buy different courses. Is it going to be one-on-ones with you? How are you starting this up?
So it's going to be 2 things. One is finance based, just getting the basics of finance, and that'll be free. And it's different courses: budgeting, credits, investing, that type of stuff. So it'll
Life 101 shit
Yeah.
that everybody should know.
But that's what I was saying. The type of stuff
The class
that,
that we should have in college.
Yeah.
well, no, in high school.
Yeah, in high
It's
school.
high school.
Yeah.
If you studied for 4 years in high school on how life and money works, and communication and working together and leadership, you'd be great. Doesn't matter what you decided to do with your life, you'd be amazing at it. And so they just don't give people the skills. And so super cool what you're doing. I'm definitely
I'm looking
gonna
forward
look
to it.
Yeah, I'll be a follower for sure.
I'm looking forward to it, and the passion.
And it's good that you're giving them that for free, to give them a little taste of what you do, so they can see how basic and easy you make it to understand, so nobody feels dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I'm asking a dumb question here. No, there is no dumb question. These are things that you weren't taught. We understand you weren't taught, and I'm here to teach it to you.
Yeah, and I feel like, so this is the thing. My whole family's in education, and they see the system as well, and they at times will admit it's inadequate. They understand that. Unfortunately, their paycheck or their jobs and their grade is based on how do we get people to pass this test,
Yep.
or do we just push the kid along?
Yep.
So there's a lot of times where they have a heart to do more, but they don't know how, or they're not incentivized to do it.
Also, they can only teach, like a really, really good teacher, they can only teach how many students is in a class per day? They teach 6-7 hours a day.
Yeah.
You're only touching 100 students a year maybe.
Yeah.
And then now you can teach like 500,000 millions of students. I don't know. It's just not scalable, the traditional stuff either.
Correct. It's not scalable at all.
Yeah.
It's the same. So like my sister-in-law, she's a PhD. She does tutoring, and she's like, man, the people that I want to help, she's like, I'm a PhD in statistics, like $30, $40 an hour is like, I mean, I love the kids, but she's like, I have kids of my own, I have a family, and it's like not worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get her to do the same thing, like find a way to do it scalable where you have a group of people doing it all at once and creating a community. Because that's what's missing too. So I think a lot of people gravitate towards my information because it's like, oh, you didn't know that either? Neither did I.
Yeah.
And so now it becomes a shameless, guiltless.
And I think it's okay to say that. And people they do
Correct.
have shame behind, like, I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Nobody else was either, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And that's why people are creating so many of these channels for you to learn from.
The most successful people I know, they ask the most questions. No matter where we go,
Yes.
they're asking the guy behind the counter, hey, how'd
Yes,
you ring
that's
this up? What'd you do? How'd you do that? It's like they're learning everything so they can know everything about everything. It's like they're trying to learn so they can be more successful. And so all
I
the
noticed
people
that.
I know they're like that I'm around, and I'm like, I didn't know you could do it like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're always super interested in learning anything about any industry. And it's like, or something that clicks and it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do it like that.
And see, that's the big
Even if they made a shit ton of money, they're still like that.
learning.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest misconception too. Like a lot of times now people talking about the kids these days, they don't focus, this and that, which is true. But it's like you have them learning about state birds. Did you ever just ask, are you interested in this? Because if you're
They lose
not,
focus because they're not interested.
Yeah.
that was me in college.
Well, just
wasn't
like you said,
interested.
you're probably interested in one class group out of all the stuff you did, and go, and you probably did really good at it.
You did.
Yeah.
And we never hone into that. Oh, you like numbers and you like just locking yourself up and dealing with it. Maybe you should be accountant, or at least go study that, go
Yeah.
intern, like spend a ton of hours doing this one thing, and you'll find out if you like it or not.
Isn't that what Montessori schools do? They
Yeah.
kind of let you learn at your own pace and kind of let you gravitate towards what you want to do.
My mom put me in Montessori as a
My best
child.
friend like swears by it. They were in Louisiana. I was like, I don't think they have very many Montessori schools here. I don't know about it. She's like, yes, they do.
There's
Texas is the capital. And I was like, how come I don't know anybody that's
There's a bunch
kids
of
go
them.
there? But yeah, in Louisiana, it's like the state school. I mean, the public schools are bad.
Yeah.
So she put her kids in Montessori school. And she's like, I don't regret a second of it. It was great for their learning and building their character and who they are and learning their own way.
Yeah, and I mean, people always ask me questions, and I almost can't take credit. It was just curiosity. And I got in the world of finance, and I learned some things, and learned a little bit more, and I was like, I like this. Like I said, I want to learn money. If you want to be rich, maybe you should study money. And that's literally how my thought process went into this, and it's kept me.
So where can people go to learn more about you and learn from you? What is your social media of preference?
Instagram is my social media preference. I'm more popular on TikTok, believe it or not.
I agree. I agree. I like the social media, the platform better.
Yeah.
You're also doing 60-second stuff, which I think is pretty popular on TikTok right now, right? It's like, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to do everything in 60 seconds.
Yeah,
and
visuals.
People
TikTok.
are like, oh,
I like your visuals. You have the little coffee cup lids.
Yeah.
that's your coins.
And I have the block guy, John, and every time someone reaches out to you, ask me what's the biggest question, where's John? That's the question I get the most.
But it's like I said it in the very beginning, and I wanted this to be more education based on money, finance, and investments. Is you break it down and make it so easy that a third grader could understand it.
Yeah.
Is there a website that you built so far? Has it not been launched yet? Should they just DM you? How do you prefer people
Just
to contact you if they're interested?
TikTok and Instagram are both Chris Cobb, CHRISCOBB _chosen, and just DM me. I'm on social media like 24/7.
So you're answering all your DMs.
Yeah. So, and I do have a site that's launching. It's being developed, beta testing it right now. So
Getting close.
Yeah. So you'll see the link in my bio. I have my contact information.
And you stay active. You're posting every day on there anyway, so they'll
Most of the
they'll
time,
get to
yeah.
learn for free from watching that.
Yeah.
And then when the courses are available, you said you're going to have the finance one. It's going to be the free one,
It's
and
gonna
the
be
other.
free.
What are the other courses going to be?
The second course is going to be Entrepreneur U,
Okay.
Entrepreneur University.
So
So
a lot of people are going to be very interested in watching that.
yeah. So
Because a lot of people watching are entrepreneurs or want to become entrepreneurs
Correct.
and get into this kind of stuff. And so
and the biggest thing I see too when it comes to personal finance is that it's hard to budget if it's not there. Like we can always improve, we can save somewhere, but at some point you have to understand you got to make more money. And I think again that's where society failed us too. Oh, you get the 401k, you get a job, and you're good.
you get safe. Yeah.
Inflation is hitting us all, but your income can inflate as well. Because I tell people this all the time. As much as I love insurance, as much as I learned, I went from my first job paying me $45,000 a year to 2 years into entrepreneurship, I made $40,000 in a month for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, I can work 9 to 5 forever, but there was never an opportunity where I was going to be making $40,000 in a
Well, you're
month.
capped out by your time, right? So if somebody's working hourly, even if you're making $200 an hour, you're always going to make that exact amount.
24 hours in a day, at best, you're going to make $4,000 in a day. That's at the best. That's a lot of money, but that's still,
But
you
forever,
can never.
you're always capped out. You're trading your
You
time
only
for
have
money.
24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's not factoring sleeping, eating, all those stuff.
Holidays, vacations, sick. And so, yeah, that's definitely not the way to get rich if you trading your time for money.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is the personal finance, but also showing people how to make money too. That's going to be the second thing. And so
That's really cool.
we need guys like you teaching real estate.
Oh, so you have different people like
I'm
courses on there.
I'm
Okay,
having
yeah.
different course creators come in. So
Man,
I'm
that's
going to do the John stuff to make it
Having
simple.
specialists, so that way you don't have to study every little detail
That
about
was
every
kind of
little
my
thing.
original
You have
idea.
specialists.
I had that same idea to where I said, the only thing that's not offered online right now, because everybody has their own way of doing it, but if you kind of vetted a lot of this stuff and you had a really good person that had a really good background, knew everything about it, sold a bunch of companies in that industry and could teach everybody. I mean, it's like, you probably just bring in that guy and partner with that guy, right? Like the best. And so then you could teach people a lot of different stuff on what they actually wanted to learn. Just because I do know a lot about real estate, but some people might really not want to
They
be
wanna
in
ask
real
you about
estate.
stocks, you're not
Yeah,
gonna be
it's
the
like,
guy.
I don't know. And so if you had another guy on there because some people are really interested in day
Stockbroker.
trading and stocks, and it's just how their mind works. And
Correct.
so if they had both of us, like, well, I really love,
Brings a lot
I
more
would
value to the
always want to be
business.
in real estate. I'm just passionate about it. I like to build stuff. They would take that one.
Absolutely.
And
It's
then
the
the
same
numbers
thing.
guy would like, I'm going to take the stock course.
Yeah. And another question people ask me, how do I drop ship? So I make one video
Yeah,
about
it's so
drop shipping.
cool. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not even in drop shipping. Like, I don't know.
I know. It's like, how do you know about drop shipping? I literally was asking that.
But you bring a guy on that, was successful at it, made,
And does.
tens of millions of dollars. And it's like, that's a pretty good guy
Allow
to
him
teach him.
you.
Yeah.
And so my goal, so you guys know, is I'm gonna take some of these courses as well and make the simple videos explaining the concepts for them and let them know that these guys are the ones that can take you where you want to go. But if you're struggling to just understand what's
The
being
basics,
done,
yeah.
let me show you. Because I do understand
really cool.
the basics of a lot of stuff. That's what I'm good at, like simplifying things. And that's why I'm excited, because there's so many different avenues and so many ways of making money. And
Connection you're going to make and the knowledge that you gain from partnering up.
I had that same idea. I think it's amazing because there is a lot of stuff online, and to go like one place and, a trusted place and have all that information, that'd be really cool.
yeah. And I don't necessarily want to be the conduit for, like, I mean, I don't mind being the
I
conduit.
know what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's just like,
the same thing. I thought the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not an expert in everything.
No,
I'm
but it's
expert
good
in
though,
like
because
one or
not
two
everybody
things.
can break it down. I am like you. I'm very type A. I like things done a certain way, and I want things very simple. That's what's made me successful in cosmetics. People come to me not because they look like they went to MAC. I don't even know you know what MAC is, but it's like the heavy duty, bright green eyeshadow, or it used to be. And when I started my company, they were like, I just want simple, make it easy. So I break it down. Everything is step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how you do it as well. And that's how my mind works. And that's how I learn best, because Sean can be so high level because he's very fucking intelligent. So he just goes next level. And I'm just like, by the second sentence, I'm like, phew, done. But I think you make it really, really simple for the average person that doesn't know a lot about that subject matter to get it and to be able to retain it.
yeah.
So I think that's why they all need to
You
get
need
their
to
ass
meet my
over on
wife.
social
That's what a
media.
good teacher is, right? Is like breaking it down so simple that everybody can
Simplifying
understand.
it.
That's it. Because and it's a challenge for me too, because me and my editor, when we do those videos, like, I will think of a 30-minute hour script, and he's like, bro,
You gotta. I know mine does that too. So I shoot every Tuesday with a girl named Amber, who does like a social media company, and she'll take my long-winded 5-minute thing, and she's like, "Dude, shut up! All the breathing, number one. Number two, you gotta clip it, gotta make it shorter. It's like it's gonna be too long. You're gonna lose them. So we try to keep everything under 1 minute now instead of like 2 minutes,
Yeah.
3 minutes, because
And
she just
I'm-
lose their attention.
I'm so glad I got the guy, because he's from Angola. So, like, culturally,
Yeah.
it's different. So when I'm saying stuff, he's like, bro, I don't know what you mean. And so, like, it's forcing me to, like, articulate better to where people genuinely understand it.
Yeah.
And that's how we did the first video. He asked me a basic question, and I just wrote it on a piece of paper. And he said, that was brilliant. And he's like, we need to shoot that. And I was like, yeah, we'll shoot it next time. And whenever he's like, no, you got to do it right
I mean,
now.
it's not like there's any cuts in your video.
Yeah.
I didn't even
He's
know
like, you
there
got to
was
do it
cuts.
right now.
Yeah.
So we just did the first little video.
And you just kept it that short.
Yeah, I went from 200 followers on TikTok to 50,000 from Saturday to Monday.
Did you have one video go viral, or you just put it?
One video.
Which
From-
video was that specifically?
It was the one talking about how banks fail using our money lending over leveraging,
Okay.
and people loved it. And it was around the time that Silicon came; they crashed last year. And so he asked me like, what happened? And I just like, hey, basically this is what happened.
They don't have your money there.
I know people don't. They only hold 10% of their deposit.
Correct.
Yeah.
They
So
think they just walk in and like something bad's gonna happen. I'm gonna cash in. No, bitch, that's not there. You're not going to.
What other business can you lend out 10 times what they have? It's
Yeah.
like, it's crazy, right?
it's a racket.
Yeah.
But they're all in bed together, so
Yeah.
they protect each other.
That's a whole nother conversation on
It
on
is.
the Illuminati. So it's fine. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
We
you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it. Next time you have to bring your wife on so we can talk to her too. But I
Absolutely.
can't wait for you and your courses and see what happens, and I'll follow along.
Alrighty, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.